Just had the question, how many classes do we have left? That all depends.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because we don't have Monday classes in finals because this class meets up on Wednesday.
If this class meets on that particular day, like you just said, then yes. Let me actually look that up because I believe I have all the final exams listed on the bottom of the syllabus calendar. So we should be able to look at the very bottom of it and see. Let me go to 1302 here.
We're your only Wednesday class.
Let's see. So Wednesday, May 10th, 9:30 a.m. is our exam. Now here's the thing. So how many classes do we have left? So we have this class, week 14, day 1. And this is the day where we talk about how to do the presentations. And then we'll do the surveys after that. Next time will be the grading conference. So make sure on Wednesday you only come for your time. And then next week is presentations on day 1 and presentations on day 2. I may have to be very clear that because of the size of our room, if people don't go as quickly as they should, which is, I'm going to get to this in a minute, but everybody should go around 2 to 3 minutes and try to get your questions in that time as well. That if you assume you're going to be exempt from the final, you may want to work really hard to volunteer to do your presentation early, because if we don't get to all the presentations on week 15, days 1 and 2, that will have to push into the final exam day. And if you're exempt from the final, you'll have to come on final exam day just to do your presentation, then leave. That would suck. Like that's like the whole thing you're like excited about. Like, yeah, exempt from, no, I don't have to come. You have to come. So that would suck. So don't do it. Nor do I want any of you who know you're going to be exempt and you volunteer to go quick do what I like to call the hostage situation presentation, where you're going on for like 7 to 10 minutes and everybody else is like, I want to murder this person, because every time that they do, like, I get less and less likely to not have to come on final exam day. So also please be considerate time-wise to the others in the room as well. Not just like, well, I'm up here now, I can do whatever, because that's unfair as well. So let's see. And then after, that's it. So we got total. We have 4 classes you got to come to. Then you might be exempt for the last one. And I will be handing the final exam review, which is going to be an essay exam review, which you'll have some leeway to work on some parts of it before you get here.
So it's safe to say I can send my book back?
Huh?
I can send my book back.
No, nobody should ever sell this book back.
No, I read it from
Huh? Never. Never sell the book back.
So is he giving the book?
Huh?
So is he giving
You said you rented it?
Yeah, I got from Check.
From who?
Check study.
What is that?
Check. You know, I knew you heard of Check. Really?
I've heard of the bookstore.
It's an online bookstore book rental for.
Is that like a requirement of when you have to send it back or something? So you have to send it back before the end of the semester?
Yeah, it's usually before. I mean, it doesn't. I think it's like.
That makes no sense. They're like, well, we know you need this for the final exam, but give it back. Like, it doesn't make any sense. That's terrible. That's a terrible company. It's terrible. Alrighty. Oh, I guess I should talk about grading. So last night I got every single research paper done, with the exception of like 2 that were turned in late, because I wanted to go back to the other class and get those done. So research paper's done. I'm going to work on getting all the revisions and late submissions for other papers done tonight. Or actually, I'm going to start with late research papers, then I'll move on to late other stuff. Then revisions. And then I'll do, I'm going to be honest, I'll probably grade the discussion post rather quickly. I may not have the time to put the care into it that I usually do, because I want to make sure we get all the grades done so that they're on the grade conference sheet on Wednesday for you guys. So you may not see like a paragraph. Let's just ask real quick. Who reads the paragraphs that I post to their discussion post?
I don't read no discussion posts.
Way more than I was thinking. So you're reading, I'm sure you read them on the essays though, right? Because you got to know what to fix for the revisions. But the discussion post, some people I realize they go, 10? Who cares? I got what I needed. Even though sometimes I leave jokes in there. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens on the discussion post. Depending. Or sometimes I'll say something like, oh look, another one about Jabberwocky, and then that's all I write. Like that's the whole thing. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to, I'm going to talk all about the presentation, so if it's a question about the presentation, that could probably wait until after, just to be sure. Questions about anything so far? Or more things, or additional things? Excuse me. Thank you.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
What if someone takes a final exam, but then your wife goes into labor? Well, you just like cancel the final?
No. That's silly. No, if it happens, then what's going to happen is I'll probably have somebody will probably John Shastine or another teacher will come into the room and they'll say, well, looks like Mr. Nichols has had. The baby's coming, so I'm here. I'm going to give you the exam. And he'll come in and like hand it out and y'all will do it. Yes.
In one of the APs that I took, Mr. Walker couldn't be there for the final, so they had our resident cop, I don't know what his name is.
Billy.
Yeah, he just came in and just sat and played on his phone the whole time that we were taking the test.
And he says, don't cheat. And you're like, okay. Because he's got a gun. Although I can't imagine Billy Miller would ever be like, hey, stop cheating. So unethical. Probably illegal too. I'm sorry, I'm imagining the hilarity of that situation in my head right now. Like it'd make a great like comedy sketch.
He was totally chill, like he didn't say anything at all. He's like, Mr. Walker's not here.
He's really chill. I imagine sometimes it's important for a police officer to be like blank so you can't read them. Because they're like, I need to read you, I don't need you to read me. I just need to do my job. But yeah, somebody will come in here and give the final exam, and somehow those essays will make their way to me. Now, hopefully I'm right, because I'm predicting the baby will be born on May 16th, and we'll have to go to the hospital the night of May 15th, like 6 p.m., is when I think that her water's going to break. I think her water's going to break on May 15th at like 4 to 5 p.m. That's my guess. Huh? I've already posted on Facebook, so my family, if I'm wrong, they'll see. She's guessing May 12th, and I was like, why? And she said, I like that day. And I was like, that's I don't think you understand like, it's a prediction, not like I wish this was the day.
It would be funny if she actually has it on Mother's Day.
I know, so I said, oh, May 14th because Mother's Day, and I was like, oh, that's horrible, that sucks for her every year. It's like, happy Mother's Day, but birthday! So she's going to have a Mother's Day weekend basically every year merged with the kid's birthday. No, and then I'm gonna hear like later on down. Nobody ever thinks about me. And it was like, I give you stuff. It's just like I can't help the baby overshadowing. You're the one throwing the party. I know, but.
Well, the good thing, it won't fall on Mother's Day. Won't fall off every year on her birthday.
Yeah, just probably it'll feel like, but the party always will.
Yeah.
It'll probably always be like Saturday, and the very next day is Happy Mother's Day, and she's like, I'm exhausted from the birthday, leave me alone. She's not like that, but she very well could do that. I'm just saying, she'll have the option. Who knows what she'll be like post-baby? It could be different. She'll be the same. She's lovely. I love my wife. She's fantastic. Everybody should find a wife as good as mine. But you can't. Let's see. Any more questions? I literally don't remember what the question was, but I'm pretty sure I answered it. By the way, y'all should write down meandering on the surveys. I know I'm not supposed to tell you what you should write in the surveys later, and so you can take that with a grain of salt. But I've noticed I've meandered more this semester than I feel like I ever have. Maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I feel like my wife's pregnancy brain has become also my pregnancy brain. It's called Cavan syndrome. Look it up.
Hypochondriac.
Huh?
You're hypochondriac.
No. Oh gosh, I'm getting sick. That was a reference to you. That was for you, sir. All right, everybody learn how to do the presentation? It's so hard. And by hard, I mean not hard. Well, this is assuming you've done a research paper. If you've done a research paper, not quite so bad. So let me get our projector hooked up here. There we go. Good, I'm always afraid like you're gonna hear like noise. Let's see, which one? We need green, not blue. I did click it right, you heard me. There. PowerPoint, explanation of the research presentation. Here we go. Everything you need to know. Now, most of what we're doing in the beginning of this is I'm just going to go over stuff that's already in the research packet, but it's a little bit more detailed than it is there. Might as well get the presenter. I wasn't going to use it today, but I think I've changed my mind, and I'm going to use the presenter today. Any comments about love song and job and proof before we move on? I mean, we didn't talk about that at all today, but we could. Research presentation, everything you need to know. You may recognize this paragraph. It comes directly from the packet. Well, let's do it again. Scared? People are always scared of presentations. I don't know why, but presentations really bother people. My goal is just to get you talking in front of people. That's my whole goal. Because you're going to have to probably do this for job interviews, any kind of work presentations you have to do. So, I mean, these are going to be common in the future, or at least in any jobs that pay. If you have a job that doesn't pay, why are you here? Why would you want that one? Oh darn, I need to change that. I thought I changed all the instances of this. I went through last night and tried to do a fine-tooth comb, but I guess I didn't use the comb enough. All right, here we go. The assignment, let's go through each aspect once again. So, yeah. So you'll be presenting your research from your research paper assignment. You'll begin with stating your thesis and how you came up with it. So that's the first thing you'll do. Then briefly discuss how you proved that thesis. You'll need to identify and explain any patterns you saw between the modern day situation and literary work, but should not simply read your research argumentation essay out loud. If you took me for 1301, you'll notice that I'm not asking you to briefly go over each one of your articles, because I don't want you to do that this time. We didn't have an annotated bibliography for this class, and the research did not factor into your grade as heavily as the logical argument you made in relating the story to the real world situation, or the poem to the real world situation. So you're basically going to do an outline of your arguments and like the similarities between the two things. So it's thesis. Briefly discuss how you prove that thesis. You know, go through like each different aspect of it. And identify and explain any patterns you saw between the modern and situation. Literary work should not simply read your essay out loud. Please do not come up here with your fully written essay and then start reading. I will cut you off at like 3 minutes, and you will have had to. In fact, don't prepare anything that you'll just read directly. People hate that. Do you hate that?
You prepare notes on the side though?
You can prepare notes. I think the best thing to do speeches from, presentations, some kind of like, flashcard type deal, or like outline. Doesn't matter if it's on a phone or on a card, but not like fully written sentences. Just like maybe your thesis could be fully written down. That's the only thing I would think would be fully written down. Everything else can be like, you know, if you're doing like birthmark and cosmetic surgery, you're like, when she died. Or like, I thought it was a charm. You know, there's like the little points along the way, not like literally that whole quote that she says in the story, or, you know, other ideas. You can quickly jump over those things, and you'll have to, because there won't be much time. So, are you telling me briefly about every one of your articles?
No.
No, you are not. Are you telling me about the points in your argument?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Are you doing some other thing you're not doing?
Yeah.
No, I just said not doing. Oh, gosh. Here we go. Now, blah, blah, blah. So the presentation needs to be between 2 and 3 minutes, must not exceed 3 because we have a very large class. Additionally, you'll need to field at least 2 questions at the end of your presentation. You're not restricted from prepping your classmates with predetermined questions to fulfill your quota, but you may not refuse to answer questions for which you're not prepared. All questions and discussions should be good-natured and Rogerian, means considering opposition to be a colleague rather than an enemy. So, essentially, you have to answer 2 questions at the end of your presentation. I will never, under any circumstance, ask these questions. I will sit there awkwardly after the first 2 presentations or 3 presentations we have, and you'll go, oh, he's really not going to ask questions. This is not one of those situations where Nichols is saying he might do something, but he doesn't really do that thing. He's literally not going to ask questions. And so you'll have to then go, oh crap, what was the presentation about? And after like 2 or 3 of those, then you'll kind of get it, and we go on from there. But one of the best ways of doing this is maybe prep 2 people in the class with questions. There's been a number of different ways of doing this. 1, having people you know in the class, giving them questions ahead of time, and then that works. 2, having printed out questions that you bring and give to people you don't know but who sit close to you. Another one is handwritten questions that you hand to somebody really quickly right before your presentation. I've noticed that this has a problem of errors because sometimes people will say the wrong thing. Probably the 3rd biggest time I've ever laughed in class, like the longest set of laughter I've ever had, it's probably the 2nd, was where I hysterically laughed at a girl who asked a question and said, by the way, I've outlawed these types of questions, but she said, what was the thesis of your 2nd article? And the girl who was doing the presentation said, don't you mean my 1st article? And the girl looks down at her paper and goes, yeah. So she just misread the question because the girl handwrote it. And so I started laughing hysterically because I realized what happened. It was like this girl wasn't asking the question. It was a prepped question that she just screwed up. And the girl wasn't prepared to answer that one. She was like, I don't know what the thesis for my 2nd article was. I know my 1st. And so she said, don't you mean my 1st? Well, let me answer very quickly. And it was just like, it just like totally, like, the veil was lifted. Like I knew it was prepared at that point. I just laughed hysterically, and they couldn't figure out why. And I said, well, it was so obvious what was happening. It wasn't universally funny, though, in the sense that, well, I shouldn't say. There was another class where something was universally funny, and we all laughed for like 30 seconds to a minute. Were you in that class? Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Let's just, if after class and hush whispers in the hallway, you can tell each other about that experience. But let's not talk about it now. I tried so hard not to laugh, but it's just one of those things where you can all ask each other later. So, questions, any way you want to get them done. You can also just wait for questions to happen. Like you can just hope that people ask questions. That often will end up with you kind of going. And if you tend to offer a lot of information in class, usually you may have that student ends up staring at you. I've noticed that sometimes will work. If you often answer a lot of questions in class, that student might just go, like waiting for you to say something. You always talk, say something. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it might. And don't ask questions that are meant to be contentious. Like if somebody does like the Trump's Wall poem, be like, but wouldn't you say that Frost is wrong? You don't really ask questions like that. You know, nobody who's writing this paper should really be focusing on this. It was like I told everybody, if you wanted to do the Trump's Wall paper, the only way to successfully do the paper, considering that Frost's argument is that we don't really need walls, is to argue from the circumstance that Trump's Wall, not the best thing. So even if you thought that Trump's Wall is a great thing, the only way to write the paper was to say that Frost would have disagreed with this being a great thing. So it shouldn't have to do at all with your personal argument. Don't consider anybody's up here making their own personal argument. Just assume that they're making an argument that they saw based on the connections that they were able to come up with. So it doesn't mean that that's what they think. Now, regarding the questions, Don't ask questions unrelated to the material or that could be asked verbatim to every single student the exact same way. Questions like, what was your favorite article? Like, that, I don't want those kind of questions. There's no thought there. There's no creativity, no original nature to those questions. Also, don't ask questions that require the presenter to give up their personal feelings or opinions about the topic. What do you personally think about this topic? What do you think about the wall? Because then that gets rid of all that objectivity that I was trying to get out of the situation. I also don't want you to ask any questions that could be universally asked of a number of different topics. Every question should apply specifically to that presenter. I think what was your favorite article is a good example of that, but I just want to be clear that, like, if you could universally ask the same question of like everybody, don't ask that question. Do you think the author would really think that? Well, I don't want that question to be. You know, it's just so universal you can say that every time. And if I notice that's happening, I'll kill the question. If I even notice it sounds universal, I'll kill the question. I'll make it be, it's got to be specific to whoever's presenting. Any questions about that? No, we got it. All right. Now the presentation will take place in week 15, days 1 and 2. If you're certain you're not going to be attending class on one of those 2 days, I'll need to know such information ahead of time to schedule you on an according day. Now, beyond such exceptions of that nature, there will not be a sign-up sheet for presentations to encourage attendance, and the order will be random. I just go to random.org. They let you put a list of things in there, randomize them, and then it will be a random order that people are put in. Now, anybody's welcome to volunteer, and I'll take volunteers the entire time. But after the volunteer stuff is done, then I'll go to that random list of who's left. And like I said, do keep in mind if you think you're going to be exempt from the final, definitely try to volunteer, because you don't want to be stuck in where you have to come for the final exam day just to do your presentation. And I have had a number of people who've only come to the final exam day for their presentation before. Also, you know, don't just rely on coming the next day. You know, because you might go, well, I won't do my presentation the first day, I'll do it the second day. And then, heaven forbid, you get sick, car wreck, somebody you know ends up getting in the hospital, and you've got to miss that day. Then you've got to come on final exam day, and the result of the situation is now you're more distraught or you're more stressed, and so now you're having to push it to final exam day, and that's no fun either. Now, if you do know you're going to miss that day, tell me ahead of time, and I'll put you on one day or the other, and I'll guarantee that to be the case. But even if you go on day 1, okay, if you want to be exempt from the final, there is one qualification that it's not mentioned anywhere else so far. You must attend week 15, day 2 in order to be exempt from the day of the final. So if you come on week 15, day 2, you don't have to come on final exam day. If you don't come on week 15, day 2, you do have to come on final exam day, in which case I will say now you're exempt from the final. But that's for me to encourage attendance on presentation days. I don't want somebody to come on week 15, day 1 think, well, I'm exempt from the final, and not come on week 15, day 2. I will not exempt your final if you skip the second day of presentations because you're trying to get out 2 days of class. Does that make sense? Because I don't want to have like a room that's half full and only has people left who need to do their presentations, and it's all the nature of like who raised their hand first, you know. Does that sound unfair? Yeah.
What if I don't show up on week 15, day 2, and then I show up on the day of the final?
And do your presentation?
No, I did the presentation like
Uh-huh.
week 15, day 1. I don't show up to class week 15, day 2. And then I show up the day of the final to watch presentation so I can get exempt from it. But no one needs to do the presentation that day. Would that person still get exempt?
I'll have you stay the length of time that the presentations lasted the previous time. Or until the last person taking their exam is left.
How will we know it, for example? I mean, I did it on the computer, but how will we know from you?
If you were exempt from the final as of week 15, day 2, I will hand out a sheet of paper that will let you know on week 15, day 2. So anybody who is exempt from the final as of week 15, day 2, you will be notified on week 15, day 2. And I don't know, I guess I'll sign it. That way, everybody knows.
So what if the person like?
Because it is kind of a, yeah, you're like, well, I'm exempt from the final, and then like, you do the math wrong, even with my form somehow.
Yeah.
That would suck. Where you think you're exempt, but you're
What
not.
if the person doesn't show up? How would they know?
On week 15, day 2?
Yeah. They just won't know.
Then they're out to come on final exam day anyway. Based on what I just said. Now these are rules you won't see anywhere else. These are rules I've had to come up with, and when I was thinking about it during the course of the semester, like different things people will try to do to exploit the system. So week 15, day 2 is an essential day. And I will hand you a signed thing that says you're exempt from the final. If you're not there, you'll have to wait to get that signed thing that gives you exemption until the day of the final. And you'll either have to stick around until as long as it took the presentations to get done, or the last person to leave taking the final, whichever one's faster. Does that make sense? So like, let's say it takes us 45 minutes to get through presentations on week 15, day 2, and then I give out the final exam review and let people go. Then that means that on the day of the final, if people come in here and it takes the last person's not leaving until an hour and 5 minutes in, then you'll get to leave at 45 minutes because that's how long it took the presentations the prior day. But if it takes people 35 minutes to get the essay done, then you can leave at 35 minutes. But I really don't think that people are going to be writing essays, and I mean, they might. It'll be up to my discretion. I just got to see how it works. This is the first time this is happening, so I've got to see what makes me feel like it's fair for everybody. As fair as possible. More questions? All right. I need to write all that down. This is the first time I've thought about all of it at once. I really need to write all of that down at some point. I'll probably do that while the video's playing. Now the presentation format, one more time, should be 2 to 3 minutes. Answer 2 questions. Take the class through your research argumentation essays, argument from discovery to conclusion. Basically, why you chose your topic, then state your thesis, which should mention the story, the real world issue, then show how they compare and imply the importance of the comparison. If at some point you'll do that, and then go over the arguments in your paper that help prove that thesis. This is probably the one you take a picture of, I think, if you took a picture of any of them.
This is going to be on Blackboard.
I think this is on Blackboard now, and the fully updated one where I just did the edits and stuff, that's not on Blackboard yet, but you'll have to remind me to add that to Blackboard. But it should be in this format on Blackboard, I think, assuming I did it last semester. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Now, grading, you be graded on your ability to narrate the research process clearly and concisely. Present ample detail from your research to explain its usefulness. Maintain an attitude of contentment and collegiality. Basically, don't be a jerk. Answer any and all questions, at least 2, and satisfy the length. Pretty good. Yes?
Can you go back one?
Oh, yes. My bad. I went too quickly. I was like, take a picture of this, and I just ran. The nature of the screen, too, you might have to do that whole on iPhone thing, like tap it, then drag the contrast bar up or down if it's not showing clearly. I have that problem all the time. Anybody need more time? Más tiempo? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It is? Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember something from Spanish. I really want to get that Duolingo app. Does that work? Anybody using that? I think I've maxed out all these state-funded Spanish classes I can take. I think I'm taking 3 years of high school, 4 semesters of college. And that's in Spanish.
I didn't care about Spanish until I graduated.
And you're like, dang, God, I wish I knew Spanish. Yeah, it's just always like one of those things, like later you regret. My brother Micah took French. I was like, serious? Like, what? Why? Like, it's just like something different. Like, what are you going to use that for? On occasion, you can say "oui," and everybody knows that one, so parlez-vous français. The presentation will count toward the remaining 200 points of the research paper planning presentation grade, which altogether counts 10% of the class. basically, if you want to figure out how you're planning your presentation grades combine, just on the grade form, the grade check form, whenever you've done your presentation, I'll give little updates along the way, usually to tell people if you can get a good sense of whether you got 100 or not. I'll say like, of the people who've gone so far, the median grade is a 100, the mode grade is a 100, and the average is 100. Everybody goes, okay, I think that means that I got, okay, a 100. And you can put it in that form. But usually if you do it, you get a 100, and I'll show you why. So we're going to watch a sample presentation. I actually have a video of somebody else doing a presentation. Well, I don't know if I should say somebody else. So we can see kind of what I'm expecting the content of the presentation. Go ahead and hit the lights back there, Wendy. They made it easier now with the switches, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, turn that one off. It's the third one. Nope, third. Yes. I hate how it's like, it's up. That's so confusing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that won't make any sense yet. We have to show you the beginning of the first one. Channing Tatum was actually in my last class. So I've got to show you that real quick. No, let's do it this way. Hopefully, if you don't find Channing Tatum to be funny, you'll at least find him to be pretty, so it's something for everybody. By the way, Channing Tatum will not be doing the entire presentation. Okay, so this was Channing Tatum's presentation for my 1301 class. It'll help the next part we see make so much more sense.
Wow. I can't imagine a worse presentation than that, Channing Tatum. I mean, what were you? I don't even know what you're thinking. But anyways, so next up is
Okay, so that was Channing Tatum's first try. So then Channing Tatum somehow made it to English 1301 or 1302 off that presentation. So here we go. He's in English 1302 now.
Oh, yes. There's his daughter, and Diego, and Swiper.
wow, that may have been worse than last year, Channing Tatum. I don't even know how you passed with that presentation, to be honest. Okay, so, and let me just say, faith is a fine invention to everybody in the future reference. The microscope is not a metaphor for marijuana. It's not. I mean, you can't compare it to marijuana. You can't compare it to marijuana. Nobody try it. And oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, okay, that is not your name. Quit saying it. I told you this 100 times. If you wanted me to call you that, you should have said so at the beginning of the semester. It's not your name. Hopefully somebody else can do better than that. Next up is Nichols. Hey guys, what's up? I did the Minister's Black Veil and compared to the Westboro Baptist Church. Basically, I just said that my thesis was, the reason I came up with this is because when I was reading the story, I noticed that there were people who were kind of hypocrites, and I kept thinking about, I was reading up on Reddit and stuff, like he told us we could, and Westboro Baptist Church is doing a protest about, gay funerals when they go on military funerals. They protest gays and say, like, God hates fags and stuff on these big signs. I don't understand, like, how they're related. So I thought about this with the critical council here. And Hoffman's portrayal of them is nearly identical to protests of Westboro Baptist Church in the sense that both claim a profound level of morality, yet only notice when others are on a commit sin and never themselves. Basically, the way I showed this was like, first of all, I got the God Hates Facts campaign. I told you about. They hold the signs at funerals, and then Hooper attends a lot of funerals, and he's like there, he's being pious, just kind of like the family members at the funerals that the Western Baptist Church go to. But the townsfolk are all gossiping at the funerals. Just like the Westboro Baptist Church sitting there holding up their signs, but it's more about them and like being disrespectful than it is about actually paying attention the way they should. Also, like, all the family and friends in Hooper, family and friends like people at the funerals and in Hooper all attend for the right reasons of the townsfolk and Westboro Baptist Church. They're being hypocritical and claiming this profound level of morality. But all they're really doing is gossiping in one case, and in the other case, they're holding up these hateful signs in the other. Basically, they're robbing people of a peaceful goodbye, because they want to do whatever it is that they want to do, and that's really not fair. Also, while he's dying, he said, "I see a veil in all of you," and he's trying to point out that it's hypocrisy, that he's doing. And so Westboro Baptist Church is basically hate crimes, and so people gossiping about each other is not quite that bad, but maybe, they kind of fit the same profile of hypocrisy. But another big thing about the hypocrisy is that they both say like the Bible is their tool, like that's what they're looking for, to say that people are doing wrong things. But they're not paying attention to the whole Bible. And if we look here, it says in John 7:24, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." And the hypocritical townsfolk aren't doing that with Hooper because they're judging it by his veil. And the Westboro Baptist Church in James 4:12 states, "There's only one lawgiver and judge, he who is able to save and destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbors?" And so they're judging these people based on what they see on the outside, like a few Bible verses, rather than the whole person and who they are. So that's what I noticed here, and they weren't even following their own rule book. And basically, what I came to the conclusion as, if they had just paid attention, so like maybe if they had a chance to read the story and see like how bad hypocrisy can make people look, maybe they wouldn't be so hateful toward other people. And so I think that was what I did. So any questions?
So that would be 100 so far. It just covered the content necessary. The thesis was there. Kind of went over the little parts of his argument. Try to imply what the importance was of that comparison. That's it. So it's kind of like a miniature version of your paper. And you noticed I was trying to overly like cough and say lots of ums, even more than usual, and what else? Rubbed my nose profusely, leaned on the podium, because I'm not grading on any of that stuff. So that would be 100. Okay. So many questions about that part. I do believe I went on a little longer than I actually want you to. I think it's like the first bit with the Channing Tatum takes a minute. No, it only go about 3 minutes, I think. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. A little longer than I probably should have, but I'd love if you could include questions in that 3-minute time. So this was me trying to say as little as humanly possible, and you know how hard that is for me. I can go. So you can definitely talk less than that. Now we're going to have questions. Does that kind of clarify a little bit what you need to do in the presentation part? Even though I know it was probably boring to listen to and you probably tuned out like halfway through. You're like, I think I read this in the sample paper. Right? No questions before we move on? So we're going to hear some questions. And I'm focusing on this in terms of the student who's presenting. That student's doing a very good job. The question askers, they're not doing the best job, but they're giving at least him some opportunity to answer at least 2 questions with the right amount of content that shows that he's knowledgeable about his research topic and the research that he did. Okay? So here we go. Going to open the floor for questions.
Oh, I have a question. Doesn't Engl say not to use religious arguments in a logical with a paper? You said Bible. He said, I heard it, he said Bible. Did you hear him say Bible? You said it. Bible. No, yeah, I know what you're saying, because I actually thought the same thing, and I asked Nicholas if it was okay. I'm not actually making an argument saying, like, they are right or wrong morally for what they're doing. I'm just saying that, like, if they're saying the Bible is their rule book, and they're not following that rule, then they're being hypocrites, because they're telling that people should be following a rule when they're not. So I'm not really saying, like, it's a good thing or bad thing because of Jesus. I'm just saying that that's their rule book, they're not following it, therefore they're hypocrites. So yeah, that's a good question, thank you.
So a very tactfully answered question there, you know? Very accusatory question asker. That was not collegiality, that was not Rogerian, that was not asking very nicely. But he still found a way to answer it in such a way that shows his knowledge and what his reasoning was behind that and why he provided it.
Any more questions? I have a question. Do we have to have a paper, like, with us when we do it? Like, I didn't bring a paper, so, like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, what is it? No, you don't have to have a paper with you. I mean, I think like maybe one sheet would be a good idea. I mean, you can put it on your phone if you want. It'd be nice to have something with you can talk about, you know, and have it right there so you don't have to talk off the cuff the whole time. But no, nobody has to have a paper. If you don't have a paper, you're good. As long as you know what you're talking about, I mean, you're fine. So, no, nobody has to have a paper. Do you think you have to have a paper? No? Okay, we're good. Yeah, nobody has to have a paper. No big deal. Huh. And that kind of was my question. You know, good guy. No, that cannot count as one of your questions. You have to ask more questions. More questions?
Now, why would that not count as one of his questions?
Because it wasn't covering the actual topic at hand.
That's true.
Covering the topic of the point of the day of presentations.
He's just like, why do we have why do we have to have a paper? Do you have a paper? What? Had nothing to do with the presentation. Good job. So maybe you can ask another one.
Oh, I got a question then. What was your favorite art? Nobody. No, don't answer. That is not an okay question. Nobody's allowed to ask that question. I hate that question. I hate it. Ask something related to the topic, okay? Try something better. Okay. Well, I have a better question now. What do you think is morally right? No, that is not okay. Like, he's talking about whatever he's talking about. I want you to ask about that, okay? Not some random general. None of that. I want something more legit. Come on, think of a better question. Quick question. Reverend Hooper, why was he protesting all those funerals? Military funerals. Does Reverend Hooper maybe hate America? Yeah. Boom. Didn't expect that one, did you? What do you got me there? Actually, I never said Reverend Hooper was protesting funerals. It's the Westboro Baptist protesting funerals. The Reverend's very respectful at funerals. He's actually very reverent at the funerals. Reverend Hooper didn't protest me. Did you read the story? Or, no, it's just, no, pretty much, just rabbit. Okay, alrighty. Well, alright, is that enough, Nichols?
So you can see the middle guy, of course, terrible questions, all very generalized, wasn't paying any attention that day. And then we have this other guy, didn't ask the best question. Obviously, he didn't seem to have read the story, but the student was able to display his knowledge of the story and say, I don't believe that Reverend Hooper did do that. So as long as he was able to display his knowledge of the story, that worked out. So let's see. I don't remember what's next.
Now that was a good job. There you go. That's how we want it done. Do you hear that, Channing Tatum?
Yeah.
I said stop it. All right. So next up is.
Now it's going to sound really creepy because when I was recording this, my wife was already asleep, and I realized I needed to have some explanation of what I had up there with me. So I have the papers, and then I have like maybe if you wanted a digital copy, what that would look like. But you'll hear me trying to talk really quiet to my laptop microphone, and it sounds really creepy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's horribly creepy sounding.
Me. So, I just want to show you.
Oh, yeah.
There's some physical papers I have here with me.
Got some physical papers out there with me.
This particular page, I just highlight the title, just so I have a rough idea. And then the next page, I had the thesis highlighted. I also have notes in the margin along the way, you can see, but mostly for what I did was I just highlighted the pertinent ideas from the paper. Anything that stuck out that I needed to talk about, I just highlighted. You can see here on this other page, I also did the same thing. I highlighted a little bit more because I wanted to get all the points. I wrote in the margin just so I'd have a clearer idea, so it looked a little better, as you can see on this page as well. You don't have to write in the margins if you don't want to. If you bring a paper up there with you, it's not exactly required. But I think it would be a good idea. You can get more points in, like you have at the top here and on the sides. But I know most of you are going to be using a physical paper because it costs money. So I did show you like on Microsoft Word here. You can see I took a screenshot of my phone. I just brought it up on my phone as an attachment. You can do the exact same things on the phone that you can do, or not on the phone, but like on Microsoft Word that you can do on a piece of paper. You can see right here I've highlighted the thesis just like I did before. I can't make the notes in the margin as easily, but I think that with this particular style of paper, you don't really have to have the notes in the margin. I really don't see that they would add anything to it necessarily if you were to do it on the computer version, but it's always an option if you really want to. You'll notice that both on the paper version and here that I have not included the works cited, whereas if you were in my 1301 class, you would notice that all we had was a works cited. And I think that's because there's more emphasis here on the story itself and the real world issue, and less emphasis really on the sources when doing the presentation. So that's why I didn't include the works cited, because it doesn't really help you tell your story, and you're not supposed to sum up your sources like you did in the other class. I do have the last paragraph that you can see boxed, because it has, the thesis and stuff like that, but hopefully this is really helpful, and I hope you have the best of luck on your presentation. Bye, guys.
I'm not really saying bye, that's just the video saying bye, so we're still here. So we're not leaving yet, in case you're getting excited, like, oh, we're gone now. No, it's not. So, I can never really tell. Did you enjoy the video? Who hated the video and wish we hadn't watched it? Nobody's going to be willing to say that anyway because they'd be afraid that I would be mad at them. Who enjoyed the video? Because I can't see in the dark. I think maybe people were nodding their heads. Oh, okay, good. Okay. So hopefully that showed you kind of what the presentation needs. Oh, and by the way, somebody showed me one time there was a new version of Word. I think they had it on a tablet type computer. Lillian, did you show me that there was did you have like a Microsoft Word on like a tablet computer that you showed me one time?
No.
Somebody had it. I could have sworn like the new version of Word you can get on like a tablet PC or like an iPad will let you actually physically write in the margins with your finger. And it'll save it to that document if you want it to.
I've downloaded Word, but you have to type.
It's like the new like tablet edition or like the iPad edition, or it'll let you write in the margin with your finger. You can like scroll on the side, and I haven't seen that yet, so I can't confirm it. But somebody was telling me that I've seen a video of it, I think, but I just haven't seen it actually in action. So there is that option as well. But I think for the most part, people would be a good idea to have like some notes on a phone or some printed out paper. But probably most of you are just going to use a phone. So I suggest using like your notes app or something, typing something up, speaking out the order of the stuff you want to do. So you have that up there with you. My suggestion is not to walk up there with nothing. I'd suggest at least having your phone with you because it's a little easier to read off like an outline than it is to make up something off the top of your head. I think there's a couple more things in the presentation itself, if I'm not wrong. So as you can see, I wasn't necessarily exuberant. I didn't seem super excited about what I was doing. There was lots of uhs and ums along the entire thing. I leaned on the podium, moved awkwardly, but I spoke knowingly about my research, was clear about my thesis. I mentioned my story, my world issues, showed how they compared, and implied why that is important. And then gave the arguments of my papers. So don't stress about the presentations. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but the mean average grade on presentations is usually like a 97, and the median and mode are 100. Do y'all remember what all those mean? Yes. Mean average is like you take all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. Median is like the middle number in all the grades, and then mode is the most occurring grade. So most people get 100. It's like the occasional person who doesn't do a research paper still tries to get up there and say stuff and ends up saying basically nothing. That person's the one who doesn't get 100. So it's really not much to worry about. Now, once again, remember that you don't have to have your entire paper up there with you, but I would recommend having it in some fashion. You are permitted to have your phone, so it may be worth highlighting key information. Your paper is saving that as a PDF. You can open iBooks or whichever app opens PDFs on your phone. I was using Dropbox, which I don't think everybody has. But you could like save your file as a PDF, open it in iBooks, and then pull it up on iBooks and have it on your phone. It's easy to flip through on iBooks. Would you get the lights, Wendy? Okay, so any questions? Did you turn that other one back on? I don't know why that one switched, but yeah, turn it. Or actually, that one flip off. Third one, yeah, that one flip off. Third one flip on. Yes. I don't know why that's situated like that. Hey, wait, I'm gonna have you do one more thing. Hold on. Now flip that one off. Yeah, now it's more intuitive. Now it looks like it makes sense on the actual switch.